Our story begins with our protagonist opening his eyes and wondering where he was. Meanwhile, in the realm of the ancient immortals, the Lord's residence's mighty powers were released outside. A man named Jan Tian shouted, "May heaven bless our Lord's family and the birth of his only heir." Then the man told Tian that the madam had given birth and it was a boy. Tian excitedly ordered the man to quickly bring his grandson out for him to see. A minute later, Tian was happily carrying his grandson in his hands. Our protagonist, who reincarnated as a baby, wondered if it was another world. Tian looked at him excitedly and happily and called him son. But then two powerful lights came down in front of them and slowly turned into people. One of the old men told Tian that the madam had finally given birth after carrying for 10 years. The other got his permission to hold the child. But the two men were shocked to see a dragon flame near the child's chest. They knew it was the ancient divine body and thought it was a pity. In nature, various good things are influenced by the heavens and earth. This gives rise to special body types, known as the 3000 physiques. Among these, the ancient divine body ranks in the top 5. With successful training, one can fight with emperors. However, lately, the rules of heaven and earth have changed a lot. 10 chains have come down to limit the growth of the divine body. One of the men comforted Tian. He said that although it would be hard for his grandson to train, given his family's high status in the immortal realm, it won't be hard to give the child a life like that of a normal emperor. Our protagonist was shocked and wondered if this was the start of a story for a hero who doesn't do well in a manga. Suddenly, a system message popped up. It congratulated him for getting the ancient divine body system. It asked if he would like to sign in but warned that first-time sign-ins might get a big hit and a rare 5-star reward or higher. He wondered what the ancient divine body system was, but he signed in because he thought it was interesting. Then the system showed him that he had signed in successfully. So, he got an 8-star rare reward, a complete great accomplishment ancient divine body. But he wondered how he got that reward. Could it be from outside himself? Then he felt that he couldn't move his body. The two old men were shocked to see a strong light coming out of his body. This made the two men ask in a panic, "What is going on?" The chain that held him, unable to cultivate, burned and slowly wrapped around the other chains. Then one of the chains broke, and the other chains continuously broke, freeing him from being held. Tian was shocked, seeing him break the chains and release a powerful force that surrounded the realm. But Tian was even more stunned when he saw a lot of people in the fog bowing their heads to his son. After that, Tian loudly said it was a divine body phenomenon, the reverence of myriad saints, and that his grandson has the demeanor of a great emperor. This made him worriedly think it was something Tian shouldn't say. One of the men told Tian he couldn't believe that the grand ancient divine body naturally broke free from the chains. Another man told them that when the ancient dragon's nest produced long Aoshin, he was so pleased with himself, he was in for a surprise now. He was stunned with horror, knowing they were praising him as if he was invincible now, and wondered if he should keep a low profile in the future. Tian realized he hadn't even given his precious grandson a name yet and asked them what they thought of everlasting. The old men replied it was too common and too cliché. Suddenly, Zhongru, the birth mother, asked them how about naming her child Xiaoyao, which means free and unrestrained. Then she explained that becoming immortal is easy, but being carefree is hard. She only hoped her child would lead a carefree life in the future. Tian agreed and told them they should name the child Jun Xiaoyao. One of the old men told Tian not to worry because Jun Wuhui was the white gown god king, so perhaps Wuhui hadn't fallen and might be trapped somewhere. Tian sadly looked at Xiaoyao, who was smiling cutely, and replied that he hoped so. Meanwhile, in the Jun family's ancestral cemetery, the coffin lid suddenly moved and made a loud noise. The people surrounding it were shocked and shouted that something was wrong and that the ancestors' coffin lid couldn't hold back anymore. Meanwhile, in the realm of the ancient immortals, Xiaoyao was peacefully sleeping in his mother's arms. Jan told the clan elders that once the news of Xiaoyao's attainment of the great divine holy body spread, the consequences would be significant. They needed to work together to hide the holy body fluctuations in Xiaoyao. One of the old men agreed and told them that many forces in the immortal city were targeting their Jun family. Another man said that a tree that stands out in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. This made Jan think that the old men understood well not to act badly and to be careful. Tian told Ru to come over with the child. Ru did as told while saying sorry to his father Tian and the clan elders for the trouble. Then the elders and Tian started calling the black-faced Thunder Lord, Black killing Heavenly Soldier, the 4 straight driven fights, and Yang God Steps, and Gang. A strong light then covered Xiaoyao, making him feel weightless. But then an old man yelled and asked what these foolish young people were doing. The old man used his power to stop their powers. This shocked the elders, and the mysterious old man's power also stopped their chanting and broke the realm in the process. Tian asked the old man who he was. The old man said he was the 18th generation ancestor while holding Xiaoyao in his hand. Hearing this, the elders and Tian knelt down and welcomed their 18th generation ancestor. But the old man angrily told them that he wondered when the Jun family started needing to hide their actions. He asked if they couldn't even protect a child. Xiaoyao wondered why there was another old man and thought they all looked the same, so he couldn't remember anymore. Tian begged the old ancestor not to be mad and said they were scared that someone would hurt his grandson in the future. But the old ancestor told them to let him see who dared to do so. He ordered them to tell everyone that he didn't mind starting an immortal battle if someone harmed the child. He would turn heaven and earth upside down with his power. This made Tian and the elders silent. They knew an immortal battle was a world war started by the Immortal Realm's Taoist tradition, a battle that would turn heaven and earth upside down with much bloodshed, and they couldn't believe the old ancestor was actually willing to do that. Tian respectfully asked the old ancestor if he was willing to risk his life to guard that child. The old ancestor simply replied, "Why not?" Even though he was aware that risking one's life was an extreme practice unearthed by top cultivators in the immortal world. This involves sealing oneself in a coffin, fully cut off from the outer world. You either break out from the coffin if you succeed or remain buried in it if you fail. Next, the old ancestor said that the great divine ancient holy body was a heaven-sent blessing for his Jun family's divine child. It was a big fortune, hence all Jun family assets would be diverted to that child, also granting him the zero sequence. The elders and Tian were stunned by this news. Tian didn't understand what the zero sequence meant and felt there had been too many arrangements already. He then inquired if someone could explain them. The Jun clan has a large population, totaling tens of thousands of clan members. Among them, 10 special individuals can obtain a sequence bestowed by the old ancestor. Holding a sequence means you possess the eligibility to vie for the family head role. One individual surpasses these 10, known as the next generation family leader. Moreover, the last zero sequence belonged to Jun Xiaoyao's father, the white-clothed divine king, Jun Wuhui. Tian conveyed to the old ancestor that the scheme might not be fitting because each sequence holder must undergo endless trials, and Xiaoyao was born with zero sequences. Thus, he pondered how Xiaoyao could earn the approval of others. The old ancestor grinned and told Tian that if people don't accept it, they're welcome to challenge Xiaoyao in the future. He didn't fret over it, leaving Xiaoyao flabbergasted. He yelled at the old ancestor that he's still merely a kid and asked if he could just lie down. However, his utterances were converted to baby language, leading the old ancestor to warmly advise him not to cry and to elevate his arms. Tian silently informed Wuhui that his son was born. Xiaoyao, in his mind, pleaded the old ancestor to halt lifting his hands and to supply him clothes as he was chilly. Right then, a system alert appeared, stating he should proceed to the Teiyu Ancient Steel to sign in, causing him to ponder where the Teiyu Ancient Steel was. 3 years later, outside the realm, a lady shouts that the divine child of the Jun family, who alarmed the 18th generation ancestor, is now 3 years old. She says they should contact her to buy the latest news about the divine child. On the other hand, inside, Tian tells Xiaoyao that what he is about to say next is crucial, so he should listen carefully. Then Tian tells him that cultivation starts with the physical realm, which has 5 major realms. With the help of heavenly treasures and earthly materials, one can achieve great success. After that comes the divine storage realm, which also has 5 major realms. These match the 5 organs of the human body: heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. Once the divine storage reaches the 5th realm, one can gather spiritual energy, condense the divine official, and transform into a true spirit. He asks his grandfather how long it takes to break through the divine storage realm. Tian replies that it takes 5 years for an ordinary person and 3 years for a genius. But for him, maybe 1 or 2 years will be enough. He asks why only 1 or 2 years when he feels like he could break through at any time. Tian tells him to show his cultivation technique, and he says alright. Then he shows his cultivation technique level to his grandfather. Tian thinks it's impressive that his grandson enters a meditative state so quickly, but then Tian is shocked to see that he directly broke through 2 realms in a row without any stop. Tian is even more shocked to see that he broke through all 5 realms. After that, he stops showing his cultivation and excitedly tells his grandfather that he thinks he has successfully broken through the divine storage realm. But he is shocked to see his grandfather lying on the ground, happy, telling him that he is impressive and his talent is extraordinary. He asks Tian if he is alright, worriedly. Tian says he is fine and just deeply moved right now. Then Tian excitedly tells him that to celebrate his breakthrough into the divine storage realms, he wants to give him a gift. He asks him what he wants, but he knows that even though his grandfather asks him what he wants, he still doesn't know that world very well. Then he remembers something and asks his grandfather if he knows what the Teiyu Ancient Steel is. Tian says that, by chance, no one knows the Teiyu Ancient Steel better than him. Then Tian tells him that it is a stone steel standing in the desolate Tianxian domain. As long as they attack it, it can measure their physical strength. Then later, their Jun family dug it up and placed it in the martial arena for the younger disciples to test their physical strength. He was amazed that it was quite close. Then he sweetly asked his grandfather if he could take him to see the Teiyu ancient steel, because now that he had broken through the divine storage realm, he could also test his physical strength. Tian laughingly lifted him up while agreeing and told him that his grandfather would accompany him. He flatteringly told his grandfather that he was the best. Meanwhile, in the martial arena, someone stepped on the stage. The lady touched the stone steel, looked at it to check it, gathered her power in her hand, positioned herself while aiming her fist at the stone steel, and punched it using her Zhentian golden palm power. After that, she looked at her hand, waiting for the light to slowly disappear, and saw that her Jin was 150,000. The man with other people was shocked that she got 150,000 Jin and asked how old she was. The lady next to him replied that she was the girl from the branch family and she seemed to be quite famous. The blue-haired lady called her Jun Linglong to tell her that she was known as the 7 skillful Linglong heart, destined to become a saint in the future. She asked her why her strength had only increased by 30,000 Jin compared to the last test. This made the other trainee say in shock that 30,000 Jin was already impressive. But the trainee's friend told her that the lady with blue hair was Lan Qingya, and she was the follower of the 10th ranked Jun Janjian, so they shouldn't provoke her. Qingya walked closer to Linglong while asking her why she wasn't responding. If she had nothing to say, Linglong just kept quiet and turned around to leave, making Qingya mad. Qingya shouted, telling her not to ignore her. In anger, Qingya told Linglong that she had heard she rejected the invitation from their young master Janjian. She replied that it was true and explained that since she had to choose a lord, she had to be cautious. She made clear to Qingya that Jun Janjian's strength was not bad, but he lacked generosity. Then she started to leave again, asking Qingya why he would let her come and bother her if he was generous. Qingya was about to attack her while shouting that she was arrogant and that she would teach her a lesson on behalf of her master Janjian. But Linglong just grabbed Qingya's hand before she could attack, making Qingya shake in pain. Linglong seriously told Qingya that if it was just her, she'd rather not. Suddenly, someone happily said that it was it, making the two ladies surprised. She wondered when that child appeared. On the other hand, the system showed Zioyao that he had arrived at the check-in location, Teiyu Ancient Steel, and he checked in successfully while he was touching the steel stone. The system also congratulated him for receiving a 6-star and gaining Divine Elephant Imprisoning Kai. Then the system showed him that the reward was being distributed. It started with myriad forms of elephants, endless transformations. Then the giant elephant matured into a juvenile stage, transforming into a dragon elephant. Next, the dragon elephant turned into its original, primitive form. Lastly, the original, vigorous elephant's power transformed into the divine elephant, marking the ultimate completion. He figured out that it was a 6-star reward, a divine elephant imprisoning Kai, and remembered that the reward he got last time was the complete primordial saintly body, which seemed to be 8 stars. This made him wonder if the star level indicated the strength of the technique and what the highest number of stars could be. Suddenly, Qingya loudly asked him who he was and if he knew where that place was. She then told him it was not a place for kids. He looked back annoyed by Qingya's noisy voice and told her he was Celestial Emperor Palace's Jun Zioyao, and asked her if she had any objections. Linglong was shocked upon hearing this, and the people there were shocked too, wondering if he was the one who caused the 18th generation ancestor to come out of seclusion and who was granted the title of Divine Child. Qingya looked around in panic, wondering what was going on and why everyone was getting agitated. Suddenly, someone pushed Qingya's head down, and Linglong slammed her head on the ground while respectfully telling him that they were paying respects to the Divine Child, thinking that Qingya, a troublemaker, definitely did it on purpose. Then Qingya hurriedly told him that she was paying respects to the Divine Child and apologized for her earlier rudeness. She then begged him to forgive her. The people were frozen for a moment, but then immediately bowed down while shouting that they were paying respects to the Divine Child. He was stunned to see them bowing down to him and disappointedly wondered what was going on. Shouldn't someone jump out to question at that point? Then he scolded them in public to establish his authority. He decided to forget about it, thinking that he had come to the Teiyu Ancient Steel that could test physical strength. If he had come that far, it wouldn't make sense not to give it a try. He focused on his body, released his Vajra elephant in myriad transformations, and began to transform it into a divine elephant that released a powerful red light. This left Linglong and Qingya stunned and shocked. When he was done, he opened his eyes and struck the steel stone. After that, the fog slowly faded away, the steel stone shook for a moment, and showed that he got 10,000 Jin. This left the people open-mouthed in shock. He thought it was amazing because, even without invoking inner spiritual energy, it still had that kind of power. He really got something good again. But then he heard someone asking if he was only 3 years old. Someone said that he had the best resources since birth. One of the people told everyone that his power was quite impressive and that they couldn't expect too much from a 3-year-old child. But still, he did not live up to the title of divine child. He smiled, wondering if it was what they call not convinced. But he knew it had to be that way. Then he released his true cultivating power while saying it was interesting. The ground shook because of his power, making people panic. Kingya wondered what it was because she had never felt such terrifying, oppressive pressure, not even from her master Zhongjian. Then Xiaoyao told them that since they all found it unsatisfying, he would show them his full strength. He punched the steel stone while his grandfather looked down from above, smiling proudly at him. After his fist landed on the steel stone, it cracked quickly and collapsed into pieces. He looked at it without emotion. People were open-mouthed in shock. But when the steel stone completely collapsed, he realized it was going to be a disaster and that he had messed up. He knew the stone steel was also a treasure. He wondered how he would fix the situation. Then a firelight came out of the broken steel stone and grew stronger. It showed him that it was creating an ancient extreme realm again, granting a heavenly Dao reward. The light flew toward him and entered his body. Tian smiled and said that it was the so-called ancient extreme realm. He explained that in countless past eras, no one his age had a stronger physical body. Tian proudly told him he had just broken through to the Divine Palace realm and touched the threshold of the Spirit Sea realm. He really didn't know where his upper limit was. Then Tian asked him what that move was just now and where he had learned it. He said, with tears, that the Teiyu ancient steel had shattered. But Tian told him that even if it was broken, it was no big deal. He lifted one of the huge stones and asked his grandfather how he could say that. It was one of the treasures of their Jun family and maybe it could still be used if patched up. Tian laughed hard and teasingly told him that he had such petty concerns. Tian lifted him up and told him not to worry. Their old Jun family had plenty of treasures, they wouldn't miss that one. Tian put him on his shoulder and said they should go back. He would explain the methods of the Spirit Sea realm. But then someone stepped in front of them. Linglong begged them to wait. Tian angrily asked her what the matter was. She felt crushed because the pressure was so intense. Still, she knelt in front of them and shouted that she, disciple Jun Linglong, wished to serve the Divine Child as her master. She begged them to let her become the Divine Child's attendant, making him confused. The people were shocked upon hearing her, and Kingya was pissed, knowing that even her young master Zhuangjian had personally designed to recruit her. This made her wonder if Linglong was trying to trample on the face of her young master Zhuangjian. On the other hand, Xiaoyao was silent for a moment and got off his grandfather's shoulder. Then he asked Linglong why, which made her confused. Then he asked her why she wanted to become his attendant. Just now, when she knelt down, although the sound wasn't loud, he could still hear the surrounding gasps. They whispered that she was the pride of the heavens, saying she was born with an exceptional mind and senses. So if one possesses such exceptional talents and does not meet an untimely end, they will certainly become a sage. And if she is destined to accomplish great things, why does she need to follow him? But she just asked him back if he truly did not know or if he was testing her sincerity. But he was 100% and truly confused. Then his grandfather told him that Linglong is from a branch family, and as a member of the branch family, she has pitifully few resources and connections. So if she wants to rise, she must establish a relationship with the main family. Then Tian proudly told him that the little girl has good judgment because she recognized at a glance that his grandson is destined for great things. This made him realize that it was because of the family hierarchy, and he was fortunate to have been born well. Then he told her that he knew now the reason she wished to follow him and that he can agree. However, she'll have to serve him tea, pour water, wash clothes, fold blankets, and keep him company when he was bored. This made her frustratingly confused. But when he told her that if she can do that, he'll provide her with all the resources she wants, she was happy to hear it. She swore to him that she, Linglong, was willing to follow the Divine Child through thick and thin, even unto death. He replied, "All right," and jumped onto her shoulder while happily shouting that they should return to the Celestial Emperor's palace. This made her so confused. But then his grandfather asked him if being lifted up by his grandfather wasn't special, and he replied, no, then told his grandfather to stop joking. Compared to a muscular old grandfather, a young lady is definitely better. This made his grandfather shocked and tearfully asked him what did he say. Linglong asked him if it was really okay, and he told her not to worry and that they should go. While his grandfather was sulking on the ground, Linglong just wondered if she wouldn't be kicked out of the Jun family tomorrow morning for stepping in with her left foot first. On the other hand, someone was running fast. While running, Kingya thought she must notify her young master Zhuangjian as soon as possible. Then she jumped into the center of the forest and caught her breath in relief, knowing that she arrived at their master Zhuangjian's realm. She was afraid that she'd drunk her saliva and was about to start walking when a sword attacked her. Someone told her to stop. The men in the tree branch told her that she should know that their young master was in seclusion, so she shouldn't disturb him. But she shouted at them that something big had happened. The kid called Jun Xiaoyao broke through the ancient extreme realm, and even Jun Linglong chose to follow him, so if they don't notify their young master soon. But the man with the scar told her that they should let their young master decide on such matters after he comes out of seclusion. And the other man said that he bet Kingya probably had nothing better to do than provoke Linglong and get slapped in the face. So now she is running to their young master to complain. She was pissed upon hearing the man. Then she shouted at him to watch his mouth if he was not looking for a fight. But suddenly, they felt the forest shake, and they were shocked to feel a strong aura. Then someone flew up from underground. The man smiled and powerfully looked at them. Kingya happily shouted that it was their young master Zhuangjian, and he had come out of seclusion. Then she happily hugged her young master and told him that he had finally come out of seclusion. He asked her if she had come specially to welcome him out of seclusion. But Kingya complained to him that those two guys earlier had stopped her from seeing him. She asked if he thought they were awful. He replied that they were indeed awful and ordered the two men to slap themselves 20 times, to which they immediately obeyed. Then he sweetly asked her who else had upset her because she looked so aggrieved. She tearfully replied that it was all because of Linglong. Then she told him that he might not know, but Linglong had started following a very arrogant brat. That brat's name seemed to be Jun Xiaoyao, and it was like Xiaoyao was tarnishing his reputation. But he just silently looked at her and attacked her, which made a loud explosion. The two men who were slapping themselves were shocked. A few seconds later, he asked her if she hadn't gone around shouting his name in front of Xiaoyao. He told her that she had really been spoiled, but she was just silently shocked and confused. Zhuangyin knows that Xiaoyao is the son of the Wuhui clan uncle and the Jiang family's goddess, also quite favored by the 18th generation ancestor. So if they offend him, they might lose their 10th sequence position. Zhuangyin knows they have to go apologize. Meanwhile, in the Celestial Emperor's place, Tian was angrily looking at Xiaoyao, who was trying to avoid his grandfather's gaze. Tian sulkily told him that their Xiaoyao, at a young age, turns out to be quite the charmer and that now he has got a young lady. He doesn't need his grandfather anymore. He sweetly asked his grandfather how it could be and that he'll always be his grandfather's dearest little treasure. Tian pushed him away while telling him to stop being canny there and reminding him that he was asking him what's the technique he used today by the Teiyu ancient monument. He hesitantly replied that, by a bit of a marvelous chance, it was called Divine Elephant Imprisoning Kai, but his grandfather told him that he had never heard of it. So he explained that it was a very powerful technique and it said that when mastered, he can transform into an ancient divine elephant, even summon the gates of hell, and command the demons of hell to fight for him. Tian was shocked that it was that powerful and asked him if isn't there a risk of demonic possession. But he replied that there shouldn't be. Tian told him that in any case, it was good that he was putting in the effort, and when he turned 10, they will hold a grand feast for him because, at that time, the many powers, ancient families, and supreme clans of the wild heavenly immortal realm will all attend. When that day comes, they will publicly reveal his zero-sequence identity to the entire immortal realm. That will mark the beginning of his era, making him gulp in shock and fear. Then the system popped up, congratulating him for a new check-in location triggered and told him to check in at the 10th birthday feast, making him confused and wonder if it means he has to wait for 7 years, if isn't that time frame a bit too long, and what exactly is the pattern of those check-ins. Suddenly, Linglong appeared behind him and told him that Jun Zhuangjian from the Heavenly Emperor's palace requested an audience outside. He shoutedly asked her how she could just appear out of nowhere and that she scared him, but she reminded him that he said she can treat that place like her own home and be at ease, making him tell her that she sure is making herself at home. But he told her to never mind it and asked who did she say wants to see him and who is Jun Zhuangjian. She replied that Zhuangjian was the young master that Lan Qingya follows and he is of the same clan as him, considering him his clan brother, but he just asked her who is Lan Qingya again. She replied that it was the little girl with the incredibly noisy voice, making him remember Qingya and told Linglong that when she said incredibly noisy voice, he knew who it was. Then he asked her what that clan brother suddenly wants from him, and she replied that his subordinate dares not make any assumption, to which he replied alright and ordered her to take him to meet that clan brother. But a minute later, he was shocked in horror when he saw someone tied to the vine torn. Zhuangjian told him that he heard that one of his followers had been acting disrespectfully and offended a brother of his, so today, he specially brought her to apologize with a token of humility. He hoped that he, his esteemed clan brother, can be generous and forgive that young girl, making him pissed, wondering what Zhuangjian means by apologizing with a token of humility, and knowing that Zhuangjian, the jerk, is clearly there to show off his authority at his expense. A minute later, Zhuangjian was seated inside. He told him that his clan brother's arrival was sudden. He could only offer simple tea and hoped he would forgive him. Zhuangjian replied it was no problem. He was the one who was abrupt. But in truth, Zhuangjian was angry. He saw that Linglong was used as a servant to pour tea and called a mischievous child. He looked at his cup of tea and asked Juangjin if he planned to have Kingya keep kneeling there. Juangjin replied that if he forgave her, then there was no need to make her feel bad by kneeling. He slammed his cup of tea back into its pot. He told Juangjin he might be misunderstanding. He never holds grudges for long. If someone offends him, he strikes back right away. So, he didn't need to please him with fake apologies. This made Linglong laugh, though she tried not to. She cleared her throat and excused herself. She told them to go on talking. This made Juangjin angry. He told him it seemed his clan brother was not happy with his apology. So, there was no need to keep Kingya around. Then he attacked Kingya from behind with his blade. This made a loud noise and destroyed the realm. Luckily, Linglong grabbed Kingya in time. She said it was all very crude. She asked Kingya if this was the Jun Juangjin she had been so worried about. Kingya stayed quiet, but Juangjin heard it and got angry. Xiaoyao told Juangjin he was acting too fast right in the Heavenly Emperor's palace. He asked if Juangjin was trying to provoke him. Juangjin was scared and said it was a misunderstanding. He was the divine child of the Jun family, so why would he dare to offend him? Xiaoyao asked Juangjin if he really meant it. Then he turned the table upside down and told Juangjin he somehow didn't quite believe him. Juangjin was shocked by his action, but he was mad that Juangjin had come into his territory to discipline his subordinates. He even wanted to kill someone in front of him, making him wonder who he was trying to scare. Because he knew that if he were really just a 3-year-old, he might have been scared. Sadly for Juangjin, he had messed with the wrong person. Juangjin was thrown due to his attack and was shocked, wondering if it was the strength of a 3-year-old. He got down on the floor and asked Juangjin to confirm that he hadn't lied to him, because if need be, he could fight back on his own and didn't need someone else to do it for him. Then he jokingly told Juangjin that the weather was good today, so they should have a little spar to grow their brotherly bond, and asked if he was going to back out. Juangjin was mad hearing this and thought it was going too far, but he told himself to calm down and not let a 3-year-old provoke him. So he told him that since his clan brother wanted to spar, he would do it. But he was older than him, so he'd only use 30% of his strength. If he could beat him, he'd give him that Yuantian's supreme command. But if he couldn't win, he should say sorry for his proud behavior. He was confused about what Yuantian's supreme command was. But then he heard Linglong telling him in his mind that it was good stuff. Since Juangjin had offered it himself, he shouldn't be shy and should beat Juangjin up to get the token, because that token might be tied to a legendary supreme secret treasure. He asked her to tell him more, and she explained that the term supreme refers to those who stand at the top of the ancient immortal realm, eternal and unbreakable. Then she told him to think about how many good things would be in a secret treasure left by such a strong being. He smiled and said that was how it was. He then creepily told Juangjin that he was very generous and thanked him for it, making Juangjin shocked and shaky, thinking that the divine child of the Jun family might just be a money grubber after all. A few minutes later, Juangjin wondered what was going on and what exactly happened. He knew that he was the highly esteemed 10th sequence of the Jun family, a universally recognized genius, which made him wonder why he was being suppressed by a 3 years old, and thought that there was Xiaoyao twisting and turning is so disgusting. Xiaoyao excitedly told Juangjin to hang in there, making Juangjin pissed that he really want to beat Xiaoyao up black and blue. Then people appeared in their surroundings to check what was going on and saw that the 10th sequence Jun Juangjin and the divine child Xiaoyao had a spar. One of the men shouted that the divine child was just 3 years old and it was bullying. But the other man told him that it was hard to say because up until now, Juangjin has been the one being suppressed. Juangjin relaxed his body, thinking that he can't let Xiaoyao lead him by the nose. Then he released his power, thinking that since Xiaoyao was designed as the divine child by their 18th great ancestor, Xiaoyao naturally had exceptional abilities, so he figured out that he had been too arrogant and should take that more seriously. The people around them were shocked to see that Juangjin activated the Purple Emperor sword technique, making them ask if Juangjin really needed to use it against a 3-year-old and think Juangjin really couldn't take a loss. Hearing them, Juangjin was pissed and told them in his mind that they have no idea how weird that kid was while he was telling Xiaoyao to be careful not to get hurt. Then he jumped towards Xiaoyao to attack him with his sword. Linglong, who was watching them, knows that the Purple Emperor's sword technique is considered an advanced technique even within the main lineage of the Jun family. 9 sword auras intertwine into a net, blocking off all escape routes for the opponent, making her think that Juangjin is aiming to finish that spar off seriously, but she thinks it doesn't really matter. Xiaoyao lifted his hand forward to meet Juangjin's attack. Then he simply tapped Juangjin's hand, which made Juangjin ungrab his sword, making him panic and look at it in horror. Then he told Juangjin that he always felt that his clan brother was weaker than he had imagined. Then he kicked Juangjin's face, which made a loud explosion and teeth flying into mid-air. Juangjin looked at his flying teeth, wondering if it was his tooth and why his tooth was flying in the sky. Then he collapsed, wondering what had happened. Xiaoyao grabbed the supreme token and told Juangjin that he would take it. Suddenly, the system showed that it had detected the key item and that he had a new check-in location. It then told him to check in at the Yuantian Supreme Secret Cache, making him say that it was really an unexpected delight. On the other hand, Linglong told Qingya that the man on the ground was Jun Zhuangjian, the one she always talked about. Neither Zhuangjian's skills nor his character were impressive, but she was never that smart to begin with. She reminded her not to be fooled by people like him. Qingya snatched back her hand while shouting that it was enough and that she didn't need her pity. Then Qingya turned around to leave. She said Jun Zhuangjian, Yung Linglong, and Jun Zioyao's names, but before she left, she tearfully shouted to them that she would make all of them with the surname Jun pay the price. Linglong frowned in confusion. He told her that she sure knew how to talk, no wonder people disliked her. She asked him if she wasn't just telling the truth, but he just frustratedly told her that if she got beaten up outside someday, she shouldn't come looking for him because he didn't want to deal with it. This made her more confused. Summer passed by in that noisy and bustling manner. Autumn leaves fell, winter awakened, and spring blossoms bloomed. Unbeknownst to them, time had cycled through another 4 seasons. 7 years later, a little girl happily shouted that she had finally arrived. People in the street were happily walking and chatting. The little girl and her sister excitedly asked if it was the Jun clan's divine island because it was so lively and it would be nice to meet some cute little ones. On the other hand, inside the realm, the speaker announced to everyone that Daoji Tianzong was there. He presented 9 volumes of Taoist scriptures as a gift for the divine child. Day in Holy Land was there too, offering a bottle of spirit jade marrow and 100 pieces of top-quality divine origin for the divine child. The princess of the great merchant dynasty was there as well, offering a precious treasure, a map of mystic mountains and rivers. Meanwhile, 2 men were walking up the stairs, each holding something in their hand. One of the men told his friend to be careful. They were carrying the formal attire for the divine child's 10th birthday banquet, and should not ruin it. His friend happily said that many noble families and clans were there to celebrate the divine child's 10th birthday. It was a grand occasion. When asked why he was happy, as they were not there for him, his friend replied that he was just sharing in the glory. He added that their divine child had been extraordinarily talented from a young age. With that retreat, he might even break through to the true spirit realm. A moment later, the 2 men arrived at their destination. One of them respectfully welcomed the divine child as he emerged from seclusion. He told Zioyao to bathe and change into his attire for the 10th birthday banquet. But when Zioyao did not answer, the man opened his eyes in confusion. He was shocked to see the floor slashed, and on the wall was written that he was bored and had gone out to play. This made them panic and shout that the divine child had broken out of seclusion. On the other hand, on the roof of the house, Zioyao was busy eating apples. He said that for a full 3 years, he had been consuming fasting pills. Angrily, he asked what the point of cultivation was if he couldn't even eat. Tearfully, he shouted that if they ever made him go back into seclusion, he would disown the Jun family name. Linglong was behind him, thinking that his most hated food was fasting pills. She told him that if she had to choose, not being able to bathe for 10 days to half a month during seclusion would be even more annoying to her. This made him shout exactly and ask her what she was doing there. She replied that she was there on the orders of the family head to bring back a certain divine child who had broken out of his seclusion unannounced. He gave her a fake smile, looked back, and quickly jumped away while shouting goodbye. She followed him, saying that it takes half a day to put on that ceremonial robe. If he didn't go back now, he'd be too late. But he kept running away, telling her to forget formality. He was not wearing that heavy, cumbersome ceremonial robe and would make it back when he was supposed to. So, she should chill out. Suddenly, he heard someone shouting for help. Confused, he stopped on the roof of one of the houses and saw people gathering around. The little girl angrily asks the man why he is screaming and calls him an ugly monster. Then she shouts at the man that he was the one who hurt little Gray's tiny foot first while showing her bird. The man replies that he has already apologized, but the little girl angrily asks him what good does apologizing do when her little Gray's talon is fractured. The other man panicky tells the little girl to calm down and asks if they can't work that out amicably and what kind of compensation she needs to let his young fellow off the hook. But the little girl gets angrier and asks the man who cares about his compensation and what if he takes her for a low-life scammer. Then she angrily shouts that the man broke her little Gray's leg, so she'll break one of his legs to make it fair. This makes the man fearfully ask her to spare him. Zioyao, who is looking from above, wonders where that unruly brat comes from and how dare she bully people on his Jun family's territory. He knows that judging by the aura, that little girl is also a cultivator. While he tosses his hidden weapon, a leftover fruit core, he throws it toward her thinking he should teach her a lesson. But before it hits her, she feels it coming and quickly turns around to catch it while asking who dares to sneak attack her. Then she feels something weird on her hand and quickly throws it away in panic, shouting that it's all wet and disgusting. He laughs loudly and tells her that it serves her right and it's what she gets for bullying ordinary people. She furiously looks at him and angrily asks him where that ugly monster popped up from. How dare he meddle in her affairs, and if he knows who she is. But he just tells her that whoever calls another an ugly monster is the actual ugly monster, so she is the real ugly monster there. This makes her furious and she shouts that she is infuriated. Then she jumps toward him and launches an attack behind him. He thinks she is quite fast, but he easily dodges her while teasingly telling her that she missed. Then he jumps backward to make a distance between them, knowing that it was not a force meant to harm. So he figures out that she doesn't really want to hurt him and maybe she just wants to vent. She angrily tells him to stop running and come fight her for 300 rounds. She calls him a rat and an ugly monster, but he just teasingly laughs and tells her that if she can't even catch him, what's the point of fighting? If she is so capable, she should come catch him. Then he calls her a little ugly monster. She angrily chases after him while telling him that she'll kill him. But he just runs while laughing, planning to just lead her away because he doesn't want to escalate the situation. Meanwhile, Linglong stands on some roof and looks silently at them. She knows the emblem on that little girl's cloth is from the Jiang family of Qingzhou. She also knows there is a young lady of the Jiang family at that little girl's age. This makes her wonder if the little girl is that young lady because, if so, it would be troublesome. Linglong chooses to watch the drama unfold, thinking it seems like it will be interesting. On the other hand, Xiaoyao and the little girl arrived at the river. When he realized it, he stopped running. The little girl shouted at him to stop right there. This made him see that she could actually keep up with him, meaning she was no ordinary little girl. She was tired and sweating but still told him that until she gave him a good beating today, he shouldn't think she, Zhang Luoli, would let it go. He sighed, thinking he had just wanted to help someone out. He didn't expect it would lead to such big trouble. He wondered how he should wrap it up. Just then, a firework appeared in the sky. It got their attention, and he realized his 10th birthday feast was about to start. So he said sorry to Luoli because he was pressed for time and couldn't play with her anymore. She was confused, but he lifted his hand, gathered some power in it, and made a bright light in front of her. This made her not notice that he was running away. A moment later, nightfall arrived at Sky Emperor Palace. Then the host announced that the Jiang family from Qingzhou had arrived. They offered 1 ancient sacred weapon, 3 undying elixirs, 100 top-grade sacred pills, and 1,000 pieces of premium divine essence. This made the nobles shocked because of the generous gifts. They said that, after all, the Jiang family had been connected with the Jun family for generations. The Jiang family could be considered the maternal side of the Jun family's divine child. Then someone entered the room. This made the nobles think that the beautiful lady in white must be Jiang Shengyi, the divine maiden of the Jiang family with a predestined Taoist constitution. The little girl beside her must be the jewel of the Jiang family, Jiang Luoli, who has a spiritual Taoist constitution. One of the nobles noticed that Luoli seemed not very happy. A man replied that it said Luoli is betrothed to the divine child of the Jun family. Kids will be kids, so they must feel awkward. Young people nowadays all talk about romantic freedom. Shengyi asked Luoli if she had hit a snag and told her they should see if she dared to run around next time. But Luoli angrily replied that if she caught that ugly creature again, she'd give him the thrashing of a lifetime. Before, her sister found him hanging from a tree. Her gray bird asked her if she was sure she could beat him. Her sister reminded her that if it weren't for that young hero with good intentions, she might not have made it to the Jun family's divine child's 10th birthday party in one piece. She said it was annoying and asked her sister why she was against her. Then someone happily called Luoli and said it had been a long time since they last saw each other. They asked how she had been recently. Luoli apologized to the little man and asked who he was. The little man panicked and asked if she had forgotten. He reminded her about the Loyu secret realm. She said she remembered now. The little man respectfully and proudly said he was Yi Xingyan from the ancient Yi family. But Luoli just walked past him, saying hello and goodbye at the same time. Shengyi whispered to Luoli that she was being rude. Luoli said she couldn't help it and told her sister that she had face blindness, so she couldn't remember such common faces. An old man with Xingyan asked if he was alright. Xingyan shyly said he thought being ignored by Luoli was awesome. The old man sighed with relief and said as long as he was happy. A moment later, when everyone was settled, Tian walked toward the stage. He noticed that almost everyone had arrived. He thanked everyone who had traveled far to attend his grandson's 10th birthday feast. As Tian walked to the stage, he heard people say they'd heard that the Jun family's divine child defeated the 10th sequence at the age of 3. They wondered what Xiaoyao's level was now and guessed he had probably reached the true spirit realm. Tian smiled proudly and saw that quite a few eager young people had come. He saw the 10th sequence, Jun Zhuangjian, 7th sequence, Jun Zuwang, 5th sequence, Jun Wanji, ancient Yi family, Yi Xingyan who wanted to sit next to Luoli, and Qingzhou Jiang family, Jiang Shengyi and Jiang Luoli. The crowd happily chatted, wondering where the Jun family's divine child was and why he hadn't shown up yet. Tian smiled nervously because he didn't know what to say. He also didn't know where his grandson had run off to. He thought he'd have to stall a bit longer. Then a bright light appeared behind him, and Xiaoyao laughingly called his grandfather old man and told him not to worry. The people were shocked to see him and asked if the main character always showed up last. Tian looked back in surprise and saw his grandson sitting on a broken table. He introduced himself as Jun Xiaoyao and thanked everyone for coming to his 10th birthday party. Tian whispered but angrily told him that he was late on such an important day. He asked him what he was thinking, making him realize that his grandfather was really mad this time, so he'd have to make it right with him later. On the other hand, Luoli saw him and knew that his hairstyle and clothes were the same as the guy from before. She angrily called him, making him wonder why that kid was there too. He thought he'd better think fast to get out of it. Then, he called her a beautiful young lady and asked her if they had met before. She looked closer in silence. She saw him looking good even though he was sweating a lot. But she thought that, up close, the guy was not nice to look at. So, how could he have such a cute face? She thought she must have mistaken him for someone else. This made Luoli wonder if Xiaoyao could also be an expert. Shengyi noticed that Luoli's old habits were showing again. She always acts like this when she sees something she finds cute. Suddenly Tian thought something was going on. Then he slapped Xiaoyao's back and whispered to him that he wasn't bad. This made him shocked and he asked what. But Tian just said that even though they had met already, he still had to introduce them properly. Then Tian told him that Luoli is the gem of the Jiang family and she is also his fiancée. Despite her small size, she is a bit older than him. He smiled, confused. Luoli was shocked and a bit confused too. But Xingyan was the most shocked and yelled out loud, asking what was going on. He was in a panic, wondering why things had turned out this way. Even as a divine child, he couldn't avoid an arranged marriage. But then he thought if he could make that young lady not like him, it wouldn't happen. So, he planned to tell her that he was the one messing with her that afternoon. When he was about to say it, she grabbed something inside her clothes and put something round and shiny in his hand. He asked her what it was, and she sweetly replied that it was an elixir made from the water of the Fountain of Youth. She told him to eat it quickly and promise her to keep that face and not grow up. Otherwise, he wouldn't be cute anymore. He knew it wouldn't work because Luoli was also quite sick. But then he calmed down and told himself to keep thinking. Then he figured out something and thought there must be a way to get out of that engagement. He looked at the people behind him and thought the answer was Linglong. Then he pointed at Linglong and signaled that she better step forward quickly. He said they had already promised themselves to each other and told her to name her price. Linglong was in big shock and thought he was a stingy divine child. She signaled that she refused because she still wanted to leave alive. But he reminded her that she was his attendant, so it was her sworn duty to follow his orders. She chose to resign and apologize to him, making him mad. He knew she just wanted to watch the show and told her to tone down her smile. The people gathered around them and said a smart man and a pretty woman were truly wonderful, and they were a match made in heaven. He smiled but wondered if any of those people thought that he was still just a 10-year-old child. He hoped that someone would break that progression. Then someone slammed a hand hard on the table. Xingyan shouted that he did not agree with the marriage, making him so happy that he had tears in his eyes. The old man with Xingyan told him not to mess around, but he made clear that he wasn't messing around. Tian yelled that it was foolish and asked when it would be their Yi family's turn to meddle in the Jun family's marriage. But Xiaoyao stopped his grandfather and walked closer to Xingyan. He then made a respectful gesture and politely asked Xingyan for his name. Xingyan said his surname was Yi and his name was Xingyan. Xiaoyao smiled and told Xingyan that, since ancient times, for something like wife kidnapping, one had to show strength. Xingyan was shocked and asked him if the Jun family's divine son wanted to compete with him. Xiaoyao smiled and nodded in agreement. A moment later, outside the palace, the nobles couldn't believe that the Jun family's divine son and the Yi family's young master were about to fight. They thought there would be a good show to watch. On the other hand, someone told Zhu Wang that he heard she had come out of hiding just to attend Xiaoyao's 10th birthday. She replied that after all, that clan brother had defeated him at the age of 3, so she was a little curious. This made Zhuangjian mad, but he knew that compared to Zhu Wang, what was even stranger was that person. He looked at Wanji and thought it was odd that Wanji would come to such a banquet too. A minute later, in the courtyard outside the ballroom, the old man who was Xingyan's uncle and named Fu told them to be sure to stop in time. Xingyan assured Fu not to worry because he had a sense of proportion. He then launched towards Xiaoyao using his star finger attack while asking Xiaoyao for his advice. The people say that the star body of the Yi family really lives up to its reputation. They don't know how the Jun family's divine son will deal with him. But Xiaoyao just lifts his hand and taps Xingyan's hand away. Xingyan launches an attack from his left hand. Luckily, Xiaoyao avoids it. Still, Xingyan tries to attack him over and over again. Xiaoyao keeps avoiding the attacks, looking scared. After the attacks, Xingyan stops and Xiaoyao tries to balance himself. Xingyan can't believe that Xiaoyao is dodging everything. To an outsider, it looks like Xiaoyao is barely holding back Xingyun's attacks. But the truth is, Xingyun can't actually touch him at all. Xingyun looks at Liuali, who is watching from the side and saying that it's amazing. Xingyun grits his teeth in anger. He thinks he must not lose in front of Liuali. Then he activates his power and shows his star's real body skill to everyone. This makes Xiaoyao think that it looks a bit bad. Then Xingyun gathers his star cloning power in his hands. He shouts at Xiaoyao to show him how he will dodge this time, making Xiaoyao shout that he is done. Then Xingyun attacked him, making him shout wow in shock. But he knew that if it kept going like this, he might be torn to pieces by that moves. So he activated his power and attacked back using his elephant subjugation fist. Shengyi shouted that it was a golden aura, the ancient sacred body. People were shocked, thinking it was no wonder Xiaoyao had sparked a vision of the All Saints cult 10 years ago. But one of them asked if there weren't rumors that the ancient body had become a useless body. The man replied that he was afraid the Jun family spent a lot of resources to help Xiaoyao break some shackles. Even so, the road of the ancient sacred body is not long. Xingyun and his power met in the center, but he got thrown in mid-air. This made Xingyun confused and Tian shocked in fear. He fell hard on the ground, making everyone there freeze. But Linglong frowned in confusion while he was coughing out blood. Fu shouted in panic and immediately rushed towards Xiaoyao, asking Xingyun how he could do it to a 10-year-old. He replied that he didn't, because at that time, Xiaoyao winked at him, which made him confused. Then Xiaoyao slowly took his power back and purposely threw himself away, making Xingyun realize that he did it on purpose. He coughingly grabbed Fu's clothes and told Fu not to be hard on Xingyun. After all, it was the competition that he suggested, and Xingyun's cultivation is unparalleled. So he was defeated, and, as they all know, the ancient sacred body is indeed a useless body. His skills are not good and he didn't want to ruin Liuali's future. It was best to end the engagement between them. This made his grandfather mad and he told him to wait. Liuali was mad too, knowing that he was just trying to get rid of her. Then Liuali called him brother and told him to rest assured. Even if he was a useless body, she would never leave him. This made him shocked and he told Liuali that she was older than him, so she should not call him brother or come close to him. On the other hand, someone broke his cup of tea. Wanji said it was nonsense, but as you'd expect from a direct descendant born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Chuangjian told Wanji that they were all direct descendants born with a golden spoon in their mouths. They didn't know how long they had to work hard to get something, but those people were born with it. Suddenly, someone shouted, asking what the hell it was and if it was the ancient sacred body. This made people in the palace look at the huge shining gold light at the top of the palace. The man with horn and two beasts beside him was mad, saying he couldn't even defeat a little firefly. So why did he deserve to be called the sacred body of the human race? This made him confused, but Tian knew those people were the dragon clan. Then the man called Lan Qingya, who was with them, and kicked her. He asked her if she was kidding him. The man was mad and told Qingya that he had come there, especially after hearing her say there was an ancient sacred body that had broken his shackles. A few months ago, in an ancient dragon sanctuary, the people cheered their drinks and congratulated their Prince Long for successfully fusing with the dragon essence. They proudly shouted that if the dragon essence were an ordinary person, their body would have burst by now. So only someone as extraordinary as their Prince Long could refine it. The ancient dragon prince, Long Heashan, asked them what is one dragon essence when his elder brother has already fused and refined 3. He shouted that sooner or later, he'll be just like his elder brother, making his people wish him to achieve great things soon. The ogre asked the chicken man what dragon essence is, and the chicken replied that dragon essence is the flesh and blood left behind by a fallen supreme dragon. Inside it are various talents, divine abilities, and rune imprints, so it is a special treasure in the world. The ogre happily said that it was so cool and asked if they could use it too. But the chicken man replied no, because a single drop would make them burst and die. Then a lady said that being happy with just merging a single dragon essence is silly when you consider that the neighboring Jun family has made a divine child that has been worshipped by 10,000 saints. One of the men angrily asked who was talking so boldly. A minute later, Qingya was thrown hard on the ground. A lady asked her who dares to be so proud and how can a mere human come to the ancient dragon sanctuary and act so wild. The man who captured Qingya asked Long if they should cook her for their friends to enjoy with their drinks. But Long said no and asked Qingya what she had just said about the Jun family. Qingya lifted her head, knowing that the ancient dragon sanctuary has a problem with the Jun family, so she thought coming there was the right choice. Then she told Long that Xiaoyao was sending out sword-given invites to all the big families in the vast sky realms for his 10th birthday party. She told everything to Long. But Long's people laughed hard and said that it might have been a treasure a few thousand years ago, but now it's a useless thing. They asked how Xiaoyao dares to invite the big families from all around with just it. But Long told his people to be quiet and asked Qingya how such a useless thing could get the Jun family's focus. She said that the ancient sacred body is seen as a useless thing because it's held back by the heavenly Tao. Then she asked him what if Xiaoyao breaks those shackles. Back to the palace, King Ye held her injured chest and called Long a wretched dragon brat while falling. Fortunately, someone appeared behind her. Linglong caught her before she fell. When they safely landed on the ground, Xiaoyao called Long a young man. He told him that he had brazenly beaten up a Jun family disciple on Jun family's territory. He asked if that wasn't going too far, but Long just teasingly asked him what he was talking about. He told him that Kingya was his female slave, so, naturally, he would treat her however he saw fit. This made Kingya pissed, but she told everyone that she was the young dragon master's female slave. This made Linglong look at her in shock. Someone broke a glass cup and Juangjian was shocked. He wondered how dare Kingya bring someone from the ancient dragon sanctuary to disrupt the grand banquet of the Jun family. He knew it was a slap in the face to the Jun family. Also, he knew that if it was investigated, even his status wouldn't be spared. Xiaoyao asked if she was really a female slave. It was strange that a fine young lady chose not to be one. Instead, she became the slave of a young dragon person. But he happily said that he got it. She must be one of those people obsessed with good fortune. This made Linglong and Kingya look at him in a daze and confused. Then he cleared his throat and ordered Linglong to take Kingya away first. She obeyed while he was embarrassed because it became awkward. Then he told everyone that his grandfather always said that their relationship with the dragon clan had never been good, especially after his father, Jun Wuhui, skinned and deboned a dragon sovereign. So, the dragon clan considered their Jun family to be mortal enemies. Then he uninterestedly told Long that if he wished to retaliate, he should come at him directly. Targeting women that way to humiliate the Jun family was despicable. Not only did it lack dignity, but it also made him look like trash. This made Long glare at him in anger, but he just continued to tell Long that it was no wonder he had been looked down upon all those years. Two of Long's people immediately launches toward him to attack him. They asked how dare he insult the young dragon master, but he didn't move away. He simply told them that the insolent ones were their lot. Then someone punched the enemy man in the face and attacked the lady dragon with sharp ice. The two enemies were thrown back to Long's side. The people who attacked the enemies were Juangjian and Zhu Wang. He told Long that it was the Jun family and they did not tolerate uncouth behavior from their county bumpkins there. When the two beasts jumped to attack Xiaoyao, Juangjian immediately jumped forward. Knowing that Kingya was invited by him to the Jun family, he must find a way to handle the matter. Otherwise, he'll be the one who will be punished. Then he used his Rising Sun 9 sword, 10,000 Swords Origin Slash to attack one of the enemies. On the other side, Zhu Wang activated her Ice Heaven Snow Lotus and ordered it to devour the other enemy. As the story goes on, the two enemies are thrown back to their young master Long's side. Then Zhu Wang says that her Jun family is not something any Tom, Dick, or Harry can challenge. The people were shocked to see the 10th and 7th sequence members of the Jun family. The two attendants behind the dragon prince from the ancient dragon sanctuary are also descendants of ancient royal families. Yet they were so easily defeated before the Jun family rankings. The other fearfully, but proudly, says that with such formidable strength and still not even in the top 5, they wonder what monsters occupy the top 5 of the Jun family ranking. Long looked at his collapsed and injured people and furiously glared at them. Then he told them not to be too arrogant and attacked Juangjian, who was in shock and got hit by his attack. Juangjian knows that it is the dragon clan's great divine power intercepting the dragon's hand. But then Long angrily asks them how dare they belittle him. Then he attacks Juangjian while shouting for him to die. But fortunately, Zhu Wang points her sharp ice behind Long and told him not to be reckless. Long just angrily looked back and asked her how dare she interfere. Then he appeared in front of her to attack. But Xiaoyao appeared forward and caught Long's attack for Zhu Wang. Long was shocked and confused to see that Xiaoyao simply just held his hand. Zhu Wang was shocked to see the divine child in front of her too. He uninterestedly looked at Long and easily squeezed Long's hand, making the bracelet break in the process. Long grits his teeth in pain, but before he can react, Xiaoyao launches an attack and punched his face. Long was pushed back because of it, but managed to compose his balance. Long's mouth bled, but then smiled and asked if it was it. Then laughingly asked if it was the ancient sacred body that had broken its shackles. Xiaoyao told his clan brother and sister to step back because that young lizard was there for him. They both tried to reason, but Tian shoutingly told them that there were no buts. When Xiaoyao said to step back, they should step back. Then Tian happily says that today is that young man's 10th year feast, so they should let him personally entertain their distinguished guests. He looked at Long, who was positioning himself to attack. Then they both jumped up and attacked each other. He smilingly looked at Long, who was smiling back at him. Then they attacked each other continuously and speedily like they were just playing around. Xingyan was shocked to see that they were so fast that he couldn't even keep up with their movements. This made him realize that no wonder he couldn't touch Xiaoyao before. Fu told Xingyan not to blink and to stay focused because the real competitors at the pinnacle of that era were not prodigies like him. But those monsters, and such monsters, were right in front of him now, so he shouldn't miss that opportunity to witness their might. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.